Does the thought of getting a mortgage make your head spin? You're not alone. The process can seem confusing, but it doesn't have to be. Today, we'll break down the steps, clear up the myths, and show you how to avoid the mistakes that trip up most buyers. I'm joined by Adam Bracken of Equitable Mortgage. Adam's right here in Ashland and is readily available. He's one of our preferred lenders, and we're thankful to have him as a sponsor on the back of Lucy, our rental truck. Adam, before we start with your information that you've prepared, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. Great to be able to join you on the call here. So I'm an Ashland guy. I've been an Ashland guy for 20 some years now. I started my career as a teacher at the high school. So I taught for 10 years, a lot of connections in the community here through that. Coached soccer as well, worked at the university for a little bit. And now I am lucky enough to work with folks here in the area, all across Ohio, Florida, Michigan, North Carolina as well, with home financing needs. So finding ways to get them the funds to make a purchase. All right. So we're here, and like Wendy, you had mentioned about kind of clearing things up. The process of applying for a mortgage, looking to try and get financing for a home, it sometimes has the negative connotation or the idea that this is going to be something terribly difficult. Right? When really it's fairly simple. Right? And we talk about the differences, right? A lot of times you'll hear people say, oh, hey, I'm pre-qualified or I'm pre-approved, right? And talking about the difference there. When someone says they're pre-qualified, that's essentially them just telling me their estimated credit score and their income and debt. And then I essentially use that information to make an estimate or a guess, in a sense, as to what they could be qualified for. Okay? So not terribly official when we're talking pre-qualification. Now, pre-approval, on the other hand, that's the real deal. That's where we're going to gather documents. We're going to confirm everything in terms of income. We'll do a credit pull, make sure we get an accurate credit score. And at that point, then we can actually get you an official pre-approval letter that can be used to go view homes and eventually make an offer.
And we're getting a lot of buyers coming back in the market right now. And we do have a lot of people coming to us say, oh, well, we're pre-qualified, and we're trying to explain that difference to them. So that's very helpful to let people know that really isn't the same thing. And I know there are still lenders out there that are only doing pre-qualifications. And so it's very important as a buyer to ask your lender if this is a pre-qualification or a pre-approval.
Yep. Yeah. And one way to be able to tell is if your lender doesn't ask for documentation, such as pay stubs, bank statements, W-2s, you're most likely just going through a pre-qualification process where it may not be the most solid document that you've received.
Okay. Am I good to go to the next slide?
Yep, I believe so.
Okay.
I think we pretty much summed up this part here, right? To where we go back and talk about the pre-qualification. It really is a ballpark estimate, right? We're not verifying your income, not verifying credit, any of that. We're simply taking your word for it. And that pre-qualification isn't going to be used to make an offer on a home. Whereas that pre-approval really is, verifying all the documents and making sure that everything is set prior to you making an offer on a home. All right. So when we talk about getting a pre-approval done, really it is a full loan application, right? Application is done online. And once you complete the application, you can see the items here that we need to have you submit. So we're having you upload 30 days of your most recent pay stubs, your W-2s from the last 2 years, bank statements from the last 2 months, copy of your photo ID. And then if you're self-employed, there's a little bit extra there. You're looking for your income based on your tax returns for the last 2 years. But in reality, gathering these documents shouldn't take too terribly long. Right? We all have access to our pay stubs. We have access to the bank statements. You most certainly have your ID. Right? W-2s, sometimes we have to, folks have to hunt down. But other than that,
those are in a box in the basement somewhere,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I see people file their taxes online using TurboTax, whatever it may be, and they don't have to upload their W-2s a lot of times there. And so those documents get kind of shuffled around, but we'll find them, right? And if we have to, we can go back to your employer and have you possibly get those again. But this is all you need, right? Items that are readily available already and are easily uploaded following your application. All right, here it is. This is the single biggest myth, I do believe. When I talk to potential buyers about their finances, and a lot of folks still have that idea that you need 20% down to buy a house. The reality of it is, first-time home buyers, if you're a first-time home buyer, you can put as little as 3% down. There are other loan options such as FHA, which allows 3.5%, regardless if you're a first-time buyer or not. And then there are other options, VA, USDA. Those actually can allow you to go as little as 0% down. I mean, in the Ashland area, there are a lot of homes that fit the USDA option. So that's something I would gladly discuss with folks about what it takes to qualify for that, and maybe take advantage of the 0% down. But regardless, the 20% down does help you avoid that what's called private mortgage insurance, also known as PMI. But that 20% is not the threshold that you must meet in order to be able to qualify for a home. Now, the trick here is to talk to your lender early. I know we have it in the slide here. We're going to see it in future slides as well. We need to start having these discussions early in the process. And as you start to think, maybe we're in the market to buy a home, maybe it's time to increase the, not square footage of the house. We're going to call it either downsize or upsize. Is that what you call it? Upsizing?
I call it right sizing.
Right sizing?
Right sizing.
Perfect. Right. So you're thinking of right sizing. Right? The idea is to have a discussion early, right? Talk to a lender, talk through your options, see exactly what it is that you can be pre-approved for. And that'll help you narrow your search then and really help you, be realistic in what it looks like moving forward. Right? Don't wait to buy. How many discussions do I have with people about what are the interest rates? The interest rates may be too high to buy a house. All of these different scenarios that come up. And sometimes folks think they need to wait to get to the 20% down as well. But a lot of times people are surprised after we have a discussion about what can they afford, can they get qualified. There are a lot of options and a lot of things that as a lender I can do to help get folks to where they can buy a home, right? So don't just search online and say, oh, I can't afford a home, or, oh, the interest rates are too high right now. Just make the phone call, right? A lot of times people don't make a call because they're scared. They're scared of the unknown, right? And so you need to find a trusted lender, someone that you can have a conversation with, to just lay it out there for you and break it down step by step in terms of what is it that we need to get you to the point of maybe buying a home. And one of the things we see and I hear from folks is, they feel as though if they go through the pre-approval process that they have to buy a house. And that's certainly not the case, right? We get you in a position that when you're ready and it makes sense for you and your family or whatever it might be, to then pull the trigger. So have these discussions early with a lender that you trust.
And I'll say along with that, there's not just the straight interest rate. There's ways to buy down the rate. There's ways to ask the seller to pay some towards your closing costs, things like that to make it so it goes along with it. Just don't assume that you can't afford it.
Right. That's exactly right, Wendy. The idea that there is flexibility in terms of the rate and different programs that are available, down payment assistance, items like that certainly can be part of the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But now we get into this, things to avoid, mistakes to make, or mistakes that you don't want to make. Once you get pre-approved, we're basing that pre-approval off of the income that we verify, the assets that we verify, and the credit and the debts that we verify with the credit pull. And so as long as those items stay consistent, then your pre-approval is perfectly fine. But what we find sometimes are folks, they make some changes, whether they don't think about it or maybe life just dictates that some happens like this. But the items on here are things that we always talk to folks about. Don't do these things, right? So we don't want to apply for new credit. We don't want to go through and buy a new vehicle, right? Big deposits into your checking account, those sometimes will raise a red flag. So all of these items, I don't want to go through all of them individually, but these are things that you want to make sure that once you're pre-approved, and we also will have the discussion with you. But once we get on a call and we talk through the pre-approval process, we'll make sure we review all of these with any potential buyers.
The big thing we talk about when we're showing houses, because, when we're working with a buyer and they're like, oh, I could picture my couch here. I could picture this here. Oh, my couch is too big. I need to buy a new couch. As soon as that triggers it, I'm like, hey, listen, don't buy anything till we close, or you check with your lender, because that could derail the whole thing.
Yep. 100%. I appreciate you reiterating that to the buyers as well, right? It's great that clearly we're on the same page on a lot of things, and that just helps all of us. So here it is again, right? Start early, right? Start early. Have the discussion. Make the call. Just because you call me or you call another lender, it doesn't mean you have to get pre-approved. It doesn't mean you have to go through the application process. There are a lot of times I'll have a conversation with someone and we just talk about the process. We talk about what could things look like. But without that initial call, people just don't really know. And so that, again, it's the unknown. If you don't make the call and you're uncertain, oh, I think I can afford this house, or, oh, I love this place, I probably can't afford it, whatever it might be, we just need to have a phone call, right? It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost a buyer anything to call a lender. It doesn't cost anything to be pre-approved, right? So it's one of those things that we just can't stress enough, that as you start to think that you're in a place where you're looking to buy a home or right size your home, then we need to just have a discussion. Ask questions. That's on there. As an old school teacher, right? The idea always was there are no stupid questions. We would tell our students that. But that's the reality of this process, is you have to ask questions. If you don't know, if you're uncertain about something, just ask, right? I can assure you that the lenders that Wendy works with are going to take care of you, and we're going to make sure that all of your questions are answered prior to you moving forward with anything. Oh, look at that.
Look at that.
Oh.
Who are those two?
Yeah. Well, that's a great team, I think.
That is a great team.
You'll see the contact information down there clearly for Wendy and I. Wendy will tell you just as much as many of the folks that work in her office. That phone number of mine there, that is essentially, I hate to say it, but it really is like a 24-hour hotline.
I know.
If you call that number, text that number, it's going to reach me. That's my personal cell phone. And, the only way I don't answer is if I'm sleeping. And if I'm sleeping, I'll get back to you in the morning.
Yeah, for sure. So if you were to say, I got the sunlight is coming right in my eyes, so I keep moving. Sorry. If you would say, like 2 to 3 things that you wish a buyer knew, or questions that you get on a regular basis, what would those be?
Yeah. So the biggest question I ever get is, what are your interest rates?
Mm-hmm.
That's a question that comes from anybody that I ever talk to. What are the interest rates doing? And that's a nearly impossible question to answer. If I'm being straight and honest with everyone, there are so many factors that go into what an interest rate actually is for any specific buyer. Right? So we can look at the national average. We can look at all of these statistics that are out there. The reality of it is everyone's situation is so different that we can't just really spout off what the interest rates are. Right? Whether it's USDA, conventional, FHA, credit score plays into it, down payment plays into it. So all of these different factors will end up determining what the interest rate is for a specific borrower. So I get that often. Mm-hmm. Another thing that I hear a lot of times is the 20% down. right? Someone will call and say, we found this house, we saw this house, we love it. We're interested in going to visit it, whatever it might be, but we don't have 20% to put down. And that's an easy discussion for me at that point, to where, your first time home buyer. Oh, that's great. We can do 3% down, or 5% down if you're not a first time home buyer, or maybe the home's in the USDA area. So a lot of options, but we get that discussion. That discussion happens a lot with down payment, 20% down. Right? And then the third thing that we hear a lot and we talk about is credit. Is my credit good enough? I'm afraid to talk to Adam because my credit might not be great and maybe I'm embarrassed, or I had this, whatever it might be, certain life event happen, and I think that it's maybe put me in a spot where I can't purchase a home. And it's always I think this happened. I think, right? The reality of it is we don't know until we have a discussion, until we actually get the credit pull done. We just won't know. And I spoke to a gentleman who just closed on his house sometime last month. And the initial discussion was, hey, I have a blip on my credit. I'm not so sure that I'm going to be able to qualify. Okay. Well, we had him apply. He submitted the documents. I pulled the credit, and it was a minor thing that happened about 7 years ago. And we easily got him approved. It didn't affect his qualification at all. But in his mind, he'd been holding off because he wasn't certain that he was going to be able to qualify.
And I will say, on our end, we get the same thing. We get people that come in and they're embarrassed about something, or they feel like they're going to be judged. And, we've been doing this long enough, you and I, that we've seen it all. We've heard it all.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to surprise us. Everybody's situation is different, whether it's, embarrassment about a divorce or a loss in the family or whatever it is. We are not here to judge. We're here to help you get that house as easily as we can, as quickly as we can, and for the best price. And by starting that process early, it makes it so much easier on you, because, Adam will be honest with you and say, hey, we can't get you approved for 6 months, or you and I have a client right now that, she needs to pay off a car. And once you pay off the car, then you're good to go. And so it's just little tweaks like that, but do not be embarrassed. There will be no judging. So.
Yeah, that's very well said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so anything else you can tell a first-time buyer, or even someone that hasn't done this in a long time, any last final thoughts or comments?
It really does come down. Make the call.
Make the call.
Just make the call. Or a lot of times I get, instead of calls from people, I get text messages, right? So if you're on, if making that initial call makes you uneasy, or you're not certain, then just send me a text, and we'll find a time to then jump on a call. We'll meet up at Goldberry, get a coffee or whatever it might be. And just talk through things. Right? It never hurts to have this discussion.
So that goes along with, I don't think we covered at the beginning, where all are you licensed? What states?
Yep. So I'm licensed in Ohio, Michigan, North Carolina, and Florida. So I'm able to do financing in any of those states. So if we have people looking for second homes or investment properties, or family members who are in those states, right? Please have them reach out. We can do the exact same thing in those states as I do in Ohio here.
Mm-hmm. And so you're based here in Ashland, but typically how far will you, I know you cover the whole state, but is primarily your business in the Ashland, Richland, Wayne counties? You do a lot in Columbus now too.
Yep. Yeah. So the Columbus area, right? That market, that's where our main office is. It's in Dublin, Ohio. So we do some, good bit of business down there. But really, I'm a Wayne County guy. I grew up in Apple Creek. So I have a lot of connections, Wayne County area, Holmes County, right? Clearly Ashland, Richland, up into Medina, up around that area. So really, again, to your point, you can do anywhere in the state or any of those states that we mentioned earlier. But it's also nice to have that home base basically of Ashland, Richland, Wayne counties to really get to work with a lot of people.
Yeah, I will say, being a former math teacher, such as yourself, correct?
Yep, that's it.
That you make it very easy for people to review figures with. Because of that math experience, you're used to maybe taking it down to a little simpler method. So I will say that about you. And you're
Well,
very good with
thanks.
holding hands with people.
Yeah, well, that's 10 years of trying to teach algebra to 13 and 14-year-olds, basically. So
Thank you.
yeah, there's some patience that goes along with that. The ability to break things down a little bit. So
yeah,
thanks.
Yeah. Good for you. All right. Well, I think that's about it. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to either Adam or myself. We're happy to walk along this process with you. I do have a buyer guide that's pretty comprehensive. If you're interested, I'm happy to send it to you. I'll drop a link down below. You can click on that, get yourself registered, and it'll be automatically emailed to you. But if you have any other questions, reach out to us. Adam, thanks again for doing this with me today. As you can tell, I'm in a hotel room, so so it make a little bit of challenges with the sunlight coming in different directions. But I'm not going to complain about sunlight. So, but thanks again, Adam. I appreciate you coming on.
Right on. Thanks, Wendy. We'll talk soon.
Okay. See ya.